In the IELTS speaking test, you're often asked to describe a place. Sometimes that's a park or a garden, sometimes it's a town or a city, and quite often it's a building or a structure. Today we're going to look at something a little more difficult, which is a place that may not even exist. In this video, we'll look at a cue card that asks you to describe your ideal home. I'll show you how to analyze the cue card, pick the right language, and then I'll show you my sample band 9 answer at the end. I recommend watching the whole video, but you can jump ahead to any section that interests you by using the chapter headings down below. So here is the cue card that we'll examine today. The most important thing about this cue card is the word ideal. You would really need to understand this in order to answer it properly. Now, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, ideal means something perfect or the best possible. In other words, you have to describe a home that you imagine living in one day, like your dream home. It may not even exist right now, but it's the best possible home for you on a personal level according to what you can imagine or what you know. You should also aim to discuss the 3 bullet points and the idea expressed in the final line. You don't need to talk about them in any order, and you don't have to worry if you run out of time before you finish them all, though. After you've read the cue card, you should think immediately of a home to describe. It could be a house that you've seen somewhere or just one that you imagine. It's best to get a concrete idea in your head, though, so that your description is coherent. You can find lots of examples of dream homes on the internet. You can see various interesting house designs on Twitter, Pinterest, and Reddit, as well as numerous other places. These can give you inspiration to help you prepare for this. Of course, it can be hard to describe architecture, even in your native language. Recently, my brother told me that his house has a mezzanine, and I had to look it up on Google. I'd never even heard the word before. So don't worry too much if you imagine some part of a house that you don't know the name of. You can just focus on those things that are important to you and your ideal home. Think of features that your house might have. So here are some examples. These are ones that spring to mind for me, but obviously everyone will have different preferences which will vary from person to person and from culture to culture. The important thing is to present your own ideas in the right words. If you want to learn lots of vocabulary about buildings, you can find a link to a useful resource down in the description. Once you know approximately what you want to say, you can make a few notes to help you. I suggest noting down just a few keywords that will remind you of important points. Some people use this for vocabulary and others use it for structure. It's really a personal choice, but just don't write too much. Remember, you only have 1 minute. My notes would probably look like this. Now, do they mean much to you? Probably not. However, that's okay because your notes only have to make sense to you. No one's going to check them, and their purpose is only to remind you of useful words or ideas as you're talking. By the way, if you want to learn some really helpful techniques for IELTS Speaking Part 2, then I recommend watching this video up here. My ideal home would be located near the seaside. In fact, it would be right on the beach so that I could sit and watch the waves or go for a swim anytime that I wanted. It would be close enough that I could hear the sea from my bedroom window at nighttime. The house itself would be quite large. I would want a big open living room that looks out on the sea, as well as a main bedroom on the 2nd floor with a similar view. I would need an office with a built-in library and a gym alongside several spare bedrooms. The kitchen is important because I really like to cook, so I would want a large modern one with plenty of counter space for preparing food, as well as a big oven. I would want a large terrace for sitting out on sunny days, and at nighttime it would have enough space to give a view of all the stars in the sky. There should be a mixture of shady and sunny spaces with nice furniture for reading and relaxing. There should be a swimming pool as well, and in particular, I would like an infinity pool because these look really nice. Although I like the aesthetic of old buildings, I think this one would be quite new because of my requirements. However, the right designer could make it beautiful and functional. Altogether, this home would give me everything I need to have a comfortable life in a relaxing place. You'll have noticed that my answer was very visual in its description. In other words, I used a lot of terms to help my listener imagine my ideal home. I haven't used any specialist vocabulary, but my language was very much on topic, and that's the most important thing to think about. Here are some of the phrases that I used. Notice how I combined adjectives and nouns in these descriptions in order to make them really specific. In some cases, I've used two adjectives to modify a noun in order to put a picture in the listener's head. Those aren't difficult words. Words like big and large are pretty simple, but when coupled with another adjective, they can present a very clear meaning. With topics like this one, you have a lot of freedom to use your imagination, and that might seem scary at first, but I think everyone is capable of imagining their own dream house. And because it's things that you know about that's in this house, you should be able to turn this to your advantage and draw upon familiar vocabulary. Okay, I hope this lesson has been useful for you. If it has, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more advice about IELTS. My aim is to provide realistic and actionable advice that can help prepare you for your next IELTS test.